Welcome, nutritionradio.org listeners. This is Lonnie Lowry, a university nutrition professor of over 20 years, senior scientist, and podcast host of long-running shows like Iron Radio. This is its sister show and covers just nutrition from a variety of angles. Come on in for your brief weekly dose of commentary, critique, and probably a comedic touch when we have co-hosts. Let's see what's on tap this time. Wednesday, weight management tips. Hey everybody, well, it's midweek and we are going to give you something on your commute to work. This time, weight management tips. The first one I'd like to talk about is calorie dilution techniques. I once wrote an article about this for T-Nation, T-Mag, and this is one that I've used over the years, and I think it's been quite effective. If you are a pasta lover, or for that matter, a rice lover, then instead of just consuming a half a pound of one of these starch sources, this might seem obvious, but find fibrous veg that you like. It has to be something you like that you can mix in. So this could be any variety of things. It could be broccoli, yes. It could be asparagus. It could be something like a blend. There's tons of those frozen 1-pound vegetable blends that you can grab. California blend, or what they might call an Asian blend, which has, more stir-fry ingredients, if you will. There's all these different types of blends that you can throw in with your pasta and essentially add no to very little calories as part of that. So when you are trying to get in a negative energy balance, and that's important anytime you want to lose body fat, it's just a simple physics. This is one way to do that. Now, I would say you could take this a step further and consider some of these alternative pastas. They have them with chickpeas. They have them with red beans, all these different types. I would be careful. They can be gassy, of course, cause some gastrointestinal distress. But it's very important that you can, pack in some fiber, including getting lots of the phytochemicals that are such an advantage with something like broccoli when you add that, or cauliflower, and just experiment with dishes. Sure, you could use a little bit of light cheese. I say light just because it might be something you're trying to keep the calories low. That's sort of the point. But this is a calorie dilution technique that keeps you from having to eat tiny postage stamp-sized portions of your favorite foods. I never liked that extremely volume-restricted type of dieting. I think it's an avoidance approach, and I think it's much smarter to take an approach concept, right? An approach to do consume more fibrous vegetables, do consume an alt form of pasta, not don't eat pasta, don't eat rice, don't, because that just sets up a cycle of failure and guilt, and nobody wants that. So that's tip number one for this week. Consider throwing in lots of these vegetables. In fact, Phil Stevens would often say that the carbohydrates are really just a vehicle to get some of these other nutrients into your mouth. Amen to that. Let's go on to the second tip then, and this is the opposite. And we'll probably do this in a thematic way over the weeks, but tip 2 is calorie boosting techniques. So not calorie dilution, but now we're going to pack calories in. And again, I've written articles on this before for public media types of things. But here we're going to look at the simple fact that not all fat is bad. And I know most of you understand that now. A lot of you didn't grow up in the generation that I did, but if you are middle-aged or later, you did grow up with this fat-free, low-fat kind of thing, demonized dietary fat. And I know not a lot of people are like that, but it does have 9 calories per gram. And so that makes it very valuable when you're trying to get in a calorie surplus. This is, again, very important when it comes to gains. You have to consume more energy than you expend. Muscle protein synthesis is very energy costly, right? When you build something biologically, it usually demands additional calories, or ATP, if you will. So here we're going to just consider an extra 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Anytime you put something in a pan that's vegetable or a stir-fry kind of thing, I think stir-fries with extra olive oil, it's a great, healthy way to go about weight gain. A lot of people, for example, have come to me in the past, I want big arms, or I can't gain weight, Dr. Lowry. Well, you need to eat more. At some point, physics will tip in your favor, and you will make the gains. And fats are a great way to do that. The thing is, again, there's a nutrigenetic thing probably on some level, but not everybody wants to swig down huge amounts of junk fats or deep fried foods necessarily, or saturated fats. So olive oil being a monounsaturated fat, it's almost universally accepted as healthy. Now, you do have to be careful because some of it is actually almost not fraudulent, but has other oils folded into it. So sometimes when you look at the oils in the grocery store, and you can find some videos online about this, that, if something talks about where the olives were harvested and at what time and consumed by this date, these are good indicators that it's probably legitimate olive oil. If you might say, well, Dr. Lowry, I don't like the dark green. I don't want my pancakes, for example, tasting like olive oil. You could get stuff that's not EVOO, just olive oil. Even if they fold in 10% of something that's canola, it's still healthy monounsaturated fat. Canola is actually quite good in that regard as well. But when it comes to something like getting extra calories, if you still want to get your veggies in, you should, then glug in some olive oil. This is where it gets weird, but you might even want to do something like that with a shake. Weight gain shake, your protein shakes, for example. Weight gainers need to have energy and not just protein. In fact, protein can be very filling and satiating. It's the most satiating, right, or fullness and satisfaction inducing of the macronutrients. It makes it handy for weight loss, but here we're trying to gain weight for people who want to add some muscle mass. So adding a tablespoon or two of something like olive oil, it might seem weird, but if you throw it in a blender, I've even known people to do this with vegetables, throw it in a blender, but in this case, we're adding calories. Sure, you could do this with heavy whipping cream or half and half or something like that, but all of that literature that you keep seeing get attention about the Mediterranean diet. There was a time when the Mediterranean food guide pyramid, if you will, had a whole layer just for olive oil. We don't do that here in the U.S. necessarily. We don't consume, we slather margarine on our toast and things like that. Our food guides in the past, they haven't been as specific as a single food, but olives are so important. Yes, the olives themselves have hydroxytyrosol, very interesting phytochemical that can be helpful, in fact. I've seen some interesting data in people that's probably the case, but olive oil, we're back at it in this case, adding calories so you can get in a positive calorie balance, right? Get that extra 2,800 or 3,000 calories it takes to build a pound of muscle. And that's calories, not protein. So there's 2 tips for you this week. One, a calorie dilution technique, and one, a calorie boosting technique. So you could try to use what we have as far as mostly macronutrients and food choices and reach your goals. That's going to be it for this week. We'll see you next time. The NutritionRadio.org podcast is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, check with your physician, nutritionist, or qualified exercise physiologist in order to make the progress that you need.